We're seeing what I would call some headwinds on the trade environment. Australia's been very focused on making sure we continue to open up trade opportunities, and perhaps that's best exemplified by the fact that we pushed ahead with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP-11. We've done that deal now, and that'll hopefully come into effect at the start of next year. But in terms of US policy, President Trump's been pretty clear now for quite some time about the recalibration that's taking place and his strong desire to rein in the trade deficit. We understand that there's some policy differences in terms of Australia's approach to the US approach, but we've been good and pragmatic friends for a long time. I've got a great relationship with USTR Lighthizer, and we'll continue to work through it.
President Trump hinted, or at least he actually said outright, that he was considering TPP, trying to get back into it when we were with him at Davos. There's been a lot of hopes pinned on that, but that situation looks a little bleaker after some tweets last week. What can you tell us about this? Have there been talks between the United States and the other TPP nations? What do you think might happen?
I think at its core, the challenge, and the president said before the election that one of the first things he'd do would be to withdraw from the TPP.
To be fair, the other candidates said the same thing.
Yeah, sure. And so when that happened, we were disappointed, but we weren't surprised because it followed through on a pre-election commitment. Yeah. The challenge is, though, that given the 11 of us have expended a lot of time, effort and energy to make sure that we could do the deal and lock it in, we're not now going to be able to renegotiate big chunks of the text. I mean, the market access, whether it's goods, services, investment, all of that is in place. It's a really comprehensive deal. There's a lot of other ancillary issues that are sort of incorporated in the TPP-11 as well. So, there's a lot of momentum. We want to get it done. We want to make sure that we can have this come into effect as soon as possible. So, ultimately, that won't be put on pause to have the US come back in.
Does that mean that you and the other 10 nations in TPP automatically get drawn a little closer into the Chinese orbit, that they become closer with you? Look,
not at all. And I've made the point, we would love for the US to come back into the TPP-11. I mean, that would be terrific, and I'll say it repeatedly, because especially from Australia's perspective, but also more broadly, we think that there's a lot of benefit for the US and indeed for all of the countries if the US is at the table. But my observation is simply to say that there's not an appetite, and I know from speaking with my colleagues in the TPP-11 countries, there's not an appetite to renegotiate vast tracts of the text, because that will take a long time to do.
Meaning take it or leave it to the United States?
Well, I mean, the deal is what the deal is as it is agreed now. And my point is simply, it would be a new deal if we started renegotiating all aspects of it, and that would take a long time. And there's not an appetite to do that.
But back to my question about China, because those who here in the United States have been in favor of TPP have said that we need to do this in order to ensure that those 11 nations don't wind up in China's orbit, that they don't become closer with China, that this is kind of a bulwark against China in the region and our entry into it. Is that the case or not?
No, it's not, and I think it's a false construct. I mean, it's not that binary. It's not a case of you either trade with the USA or you trade with China. I mean, the fact is that in Australia's case, for example, China's our largest trading partner. We do about $175 billion worth of two-way trade with China. We run a trade surplus with China, but we've been a strong ally.
You run a surplus with China?
Sure. And I mean, we run a trade deficit with the United States, and the reason we run a trade deficit with the US is because we buy Caterpillar equipment and we buy Boeing aircraft, and that powers exports for us in terms of our resources industry and our tourism industry. So I don't get too caught up on the deficit surplus scale, because what matters is the composition of your trade and what you're able to achieve overall. But look, there's strategic benefit if the US was to come back to the table around the TPP-11, but you know what? I think a lot of this is academic now. The President's made his position, I think, quite clear. All I can say is the TPP-11, we want to press ahead with it. We want the deal to come into effect, and we would welcome the US to come back. But ultimately, that's a decision for the US.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.